Well, what do you think?
AIDS cancer.
Oh, come on, bro. This is what people want.
Who the You know, times were better when you had a dick.
Debatable. You know how much more people actually ask for my nudes now compared to back then.
Can you at least not put me in there?
Yeah, whatever. No one's gonna wank off to you anyway.
Debatable.
Right. Extra noses pounces on you, ooh, you're so warm. Couldn't help but notice your bolts from across the floor. Noses your Nicky wakey till day Matilda, hee hee. Unzips your baggiest pants, oh baby, you so musky.
Where am I? Where are my tits? If you mean those small pillows that you put underneath your shirt to make your chest seem puffier, then don't worry, I kept those in. Oh, come on, it was supposed to be a secret. But I was asking about that one time I accidentally turned myself into a woman. I was genuinely hoping your head injury would be enough to forget that, maybe even forget me for good measure. So about 0.2 seconds after you got even more feminine than you already were, somehow, you started getting flooded with people asking for your nudes. Since this time people were certain that you were a woman, instead of, being skeptical that you were a guy. And then you get distracted by all the requests, and next thing you know, you'll end us in a car crash. Oh, finally a terrible event that wasn't actually directly caused by me. Motherfucker, you were taking nudes while we were driving. Damn it! I even tried to scare people away by posting a picture of your heavily injured body. Sadly enough, there were actually people into that shit. What did you expect? Human decency. Well, anyway, thanks for bringing me here at least. I didn't need to. You crashed into the hospital. Oh, well, that's convenient. And while you were recovering, I've met this lovely fella who fixed you up and changed your gender back. Say hi to Mr. Meat.
Hello there, Mr. Smart Drion.
Hi. We managed to get along pretty well, because as it turns out, we are both on the run from the government. I absolutely love this dude.
No Robo.
No Robo. Wait, does he have a license?
You want free medical assistance or not?
Okay, but why is my pee-pee still inverted? Alright, leaving the jest for last, huh?
Time for reverse desperation, let's fucking go. Whoa.
Wait, aren't you supposed to, tranquilize me, put me to sleep or Whoa. I'm so glad I'm physically unable to puke. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Axiom, the show where with every episode the skits get longer and more convoluted, to the point where I might actually become the nostalgia critic of FNAF at some point. God, please don't let that happen. Well, today we're back to covering more traditional FNAF fan games, and in fact, more remakes. Although, unlike before, when we either had an unofficial remake of a game that was bad but really popular somehow, or an official remake of a game that wasn't all that popular. Wait, what the fuck? This time it's about unofficial remakes of a relatively obscure series, at least from what I could tell. One Night at Springtrap's Remake trilogy by Professor Malek, the same developer behind Freddy's Timer, which by the way is gonna get a recoded version. It's gonna be even better with some changes like for example the errors actually meaning shit, and on top of that there's gonna be a Halloween version. Drion from the future here. The Halloween version had been cancelled due to not being able to be made in time. Can relate. But the improved version is still being worked on, and it might even have some features that were initially meant to be exclusive to the Halloween version, so yeah, still be sure to check it out. I'll let my past self finish this one. Do it or I'll flip the light switch on you and do some questionable things. Based on the One Night at Springtrap series by Super Luigi Lover 9999, now that's a mouthful. Coming from the guy who would have probably named himself Silver the Hedgehog Lover 420. Silver the Hedgehog Lover 69, get it right. Anyway, just like usual, we're gonna go through the originals first. And not because I hate myself, well, not only because I hate myself, but come on, these games are a goldmine of unintentional comedy. You really think I'm gonna pass this up? And I guess that's just how we do it on this channel now. We take the piss out of the originals, just to praise the shit out of the remakes. And without further ado, let's dive into this mess.
Welcome.
Slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross, crisscross.
Let's see for how long this game can work properly. Oh wait, 0 seconds and the menu's already fucking broken. But hey, we have a full screen option. Springtrap is the main antagonist in the game and was one of the singers in Fredbear's family. Drion was known as Spring Bonnie, but later he was then known as Springtrap and was known as Spring Bonnie, but later he was then known as Springtrap and was found in Act 1 after even they found him in For the love of Christ, please put some fucking commas in here. Yeah, this whole menu is just descriptions of characters, and with no punctuation, reading all of this is probably the hardest challenge this series will ever provide. Also, I don't know if you noticed the exit button, it's very subtly hidden. Let me give you a closer look. And yes, you don't need to beat the game to unlock the extras, but that won't stop me. Oh, okay, gameplay!
Welcome to the new horror house of Spring.
Springtrap and Fredbear will come at you from the left and right sides respectively, while making sound cues every time they move. When they make it to your office, you need to put on the mask, and this is where keeping track of them is actually useful, because they don't give you much time to react. There's also a music box, I totally didn't expect that one. And Toy Spring Bonnie, who you also have to keep track of, since when he runs out you need to put on the mask. And then there's Spring Mangle and Spring Balloon Boy, aka antagonistic animatronic. They appear when you open or close the camera respectively, and again just use the mask against them. Now, I'll be honest, I think the gameplay in this game is actually handled pretty decently. You need to keep track of Springtrap and Fredbear so that you can react in time, so the cameras aren't just useful for the music box. And Spring Mangle and Spring Balloon Boy actually punish you for opening and closing the cameras too often, since it does take a while for them to go away, and especially if Springtrap or Fredbear happen to enter at the same time and your music box is low, you could be pretty screwed. So yeah, even if the challenge is fairly minimal, it's still there, and there's a bit of tension too, so I'd say for being the developer's first FNAF fan game, it's not that bad really. And heck, this game is miles better than TRT of 1. Although to be honest, the bar is set so low that it probably pierces your score and ends up on the other side of the planet, but hey. It's also probably the most fun game in the original series because yes, somehow it only goes downhill from here. Okay, so... well... yeah. Oh look, there's an intro cutscene now. Wait, these games have lore? Alright, so the extras menu now has two sections. A sound test, which is... unique, I guess? And jump scares. Now, remember how I said that it's only downhill from here? Well, yeah, this is where the games kinda stop being, you know, fun. Literally all you need to do is wind up the music box and then use the locker when Toy Spring Bonnie and Springtrap enter the room. You do have a camera, but there's no real reason to use it, especially with the music box being separated, like, why? To blow my ears out with this loud ass static noise. Withered Fredbear also exists, but you need to use the camera to even encounter him, so to me he doesn't actually exist. And yeah, that's basically the whole game. There's not really much to say, it just feels like a downgrade really. And the worst part is that there's no honky. Wait, what the fuck is this shit? I swear I must have heard something. Oh, what's this?
An Xbox.
Oh, okay, cool.
Also, don't suck your at your I'll invert your dick.
Hey, that's
Oh dear, it seems you've seen it.
Wait. From which game was that Sonic?
Sonic Lost World?
Whatever. Honestly, you should have skinned Tails. He was being such a prick.
Anyway, fanboys.
Fanboys? Oh, would you look at that? There's minigames now.
But if you close your eyes.
Anyway, when you go right, Fredbear just fucking dies. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Oh god.
I will not come back.
Stop blueballing me with these intros, for Christ's sake. Alright, you know how this goes by now. Me when Monday. Me when Tuesday. Me when... Okay, serious question. If this thing stroked you, would it be a handjob or a blowjob? For whatever reason, the developer here thought that the more heads the better, when it's actually the more head the better. Who did that? Now I will say the jump scares are somewhat of an improvement since they're at least somewhat animated now. Aside from the puppet one which just zooms in on its neck, like how is that supposed to spook me? Actually, I know how.
Die.
Okay, third game in the series, is there an intro screen? Of course there isn't. Okay, the honky is there. This game is at least an improvement. Oh, two honkies! So your main enemy here is Nightmare Springtrap, bet you couldn't tell that one. Did you also know that Kam is red? He will appear from time to time in the window, and once you see him there, you need to go to the hallway and wait until he leaves. Nightmare Withered Fredbear is, you guessed it, and the last three share two common traits. The first one is that they're kinda designed to get you while you're escaping from Springtrap, and the second one being that none of them fucking succeed at their job, even slightly. The puppet can sometimes appear in the hallway, but not only can you just leave and go back to the hallway even if Springtrap's in the office, but it also takes ages to kill you, so yeah, useless. Log Bunny can sometimes appear when you go back to the office, and he blocks the lights button, which you'd think would be a threat, but let me explain how this enemy design is just straight up bad. The only time he'll be coming back to the office is after Springtrap left, and since it takes a while for him to get back, you literally don't need the lights button at that time. And that is if you even encounter him. This boy appears like once in a blue moon.
Get it?
The last enemy is Logbear. When he's in the office, if you stay with him for too long or try to leave while he's there, he will kill you. Now this one has the most fundamental issue. You need to use the cameras for him to appear. And that's all I can really say about the gameplay. Just like with the second game, there isn't really much going on. It's kinda boring, really. But hey, once we beat the night, we actually get to see the continuation of the minigame. Let's see if there's actually something interesting this time around.
Hallo, ich bin Marcel Davis. Seit 16 Jahren arbeite ich bei 1&1.
Okay, no. Whoa. Something happened. What the fuck is this design choice? Now, I'll be honest, I don't mind the games reusing FNAF assets as long as they're either well edited, or especially if the gameplay is fun enough to compensate. Which, by the way, this game is actually pretty good. Just trust me, okay? Don't let the looks deceive you. The gameplay, which is, you know, the thing that actually fucking matters, is quite challenging and fun.
Absolutely no life.
I can only review so many games in one video, but might as well give this one a shout out. Now let's get back into the dumpster fire. The problem is, after all these games, the visuals haven't really been improved much.
Weed.
Imagine if my stills were just as ugly as from the beginning of the year, like ew. And the gameplay makes me reconsider some life choices. Alright, so before we start the night, we get to play a mini game where characters look just about as hammered as in the actual game. Oh look, there's a room for employee. Oh come on, that wasn't that offensive, was it? Wait, it's all TRTF? It seems like this is where the developer actually realized that the cameras have been useless for a while, so he replaced them with this map. Wait, you fight off Springtrap and a version of Freddy, and you don't have cameras, but you have a map that tracks movement with icons. I wonder where I've seen that before. What you're supposed to do is keep track of Springtrap's movement, and depending on which TRTF office he goes to, you need to use the appropriate hallway jammer. Prototype Fredbear just kinda appears.
I got some jelly beans.
For him, you need to use the office jammer and the TRTF2 office. This is probably the one fan game where 360 scrolling would have actually been useful, since the jammers are on two opposite ends. Oh wait, actually it doesn't matter that much. The game is really easy. You wanna know why? Well, aside from the fact that you're given more than enough time to react, the hallway jammers are just straight up broken. Whenever Springtrap runs out, the only jammer that works is the one that you need to use. You literally can't screw up, you don't even need the map. Even the replacement for the camera is useless. But hey, you know what's even more useless? These two. They sometimes jump scare you when you lower the tablets, but all they do is give you this hallucination thing, which not only doesn't do anything meaningful, but goes away the moment you tap control. Like, what is the point of this? Okay, done. Do we actually finally get a satisfying ending? Nope. No, we don't. Oh, and by the way, this is the first and the only game in the series to have a hard mode. But it's basically just as easy and... wait, I don't even get a different ending? Wait, no, there's gotta be something different, right?
Hi, my name is Reggie. I like guys.
Alright, the last game, the Reboot. Before we dive into it, I'm just gonna say, the menu music is an absolute headbanger. character cast is just like usual, half of it is taken from FNAF, the other half looks like it's high on acid. There is now a scrapped content section with an unused character, the new one, and this cutscene thing. And yes, hard mode is gone, consistency was never an option. Now this game tries to go for a more FNAF 4 styled gameplay, and it succeeds. Succeeds about as much as I do at social interactions. Alright, so Springtrap. In order to deal with him, you need to walk up to the window, and depending on whether you hear breathing or not, you need to either close the blinds or use your flashlight. Oh look, you actually need to pay attention? No you don't. At least not when you realize that closing the blinds on him when you need to do so makes him go away instantly. Which means you can just walk to the window from time to time, close the blinds and use your flashlight in this order, and it'll work every time. With Lockberry, you just gotta check up his room every now and then so that he doesn't kill you. But also don't stay in his room for too long or he'll also kill you. What? Flashtrap will get closer and closer and then jump scare you without actually killing you. Holy shit, I'm getting blue balled in main gameplay too now. What you're supposed to do is go back to the living room, turn off the lamps, and then turn them back on again and go back, and he'll go back to his starting position. But the game never actually explains this, figure it out yourself, you knob. Now Dark Freddy was made to look somewhat intimidating, and he's on the main menu, so you think he'd do something significant, he just blocks the window, that's it. If you're gonna do something as wacky as giving an animatronic a knife, at least make him use it. And yeah, that's about it. So once you beat the night, you get this ending screen, and that's it. No cutscenes, no minigames. I can't even disappoint myself even more. Or wait, does that already make me more disappointed? And that's it for the original ONaST Springtrap series. It started off pretty decently actually. And while the graphics didn't really improve a whole lot, I did find some of the character design to be pretty creative, sometimes too creative. They just lacked a way better execution. But the gameplay holds back the games drastically, it just kept getting worse with each entry. So while the series is nostalgic, I can't really recommend it. Oh, and by the way, I may not be a coder, but I'm pretty sure when games like these take up this much fucking RAM, there's gotta be some spaghetti action going on in the code. Although, some good things did come out of this series. Firstly, if you ever feel useless, just think about most of the character cast in this series, you'll instantly feel much better. And secondly, the remakes, which we shall now cover. Why do I still have this book here? I know it by heart already. Excuse me? So all we need to do is play pretend as if we're them in Halloween outfits, right?
Indeed, this should not be too hard as long as you don't let your hissy fits blow our cover.
You know, it's pretty hard not to do so with you being around.
Fine, I shall take my leave then.
Well, that was easy. I know we're a little late for Halloween, but might as well not let the preparations go to waste. Anyway, before we dive in, I might as well mention that the entire trilogy got updated recently, with the first remake being that of the Reboot, receiving the most improvements out of the bunch. And it's not your usual bug fixes and optimization, although I must say about the latter one, it's definitely not to be underestimated. Even the gameplay itself got massively improved, and for a good reason. A while back, the game got a major update so bad that you might as well call it a major downgrade, and that's the developer's quote, not mine. It was practically impossible to beat the game with how unbalanced it was. Although the only major update footage I could find is from this guy, and not to be harsh, but I could play the game better with eyes closed, and with my left hand, please, just get the hang of the mechanics before you actually record the fucking gameplay. So, to recap, what we're about to look at is a recoded version of a major update, of a reboot, of a remake of a shoddy FNAF fan game. And do we finally have a quality fan game after all this? Oh well, let's find out. And by that I mean yes.
Always come.
So the menu music here is a bit weird, but it also represents your state of mind after trying to beat all three remakes quite well, trust me. Now we can actually talk about the graphics. So the environments look fine, although you can't even see most of them, but I don't really mind, I think it fits the mood. And for someone like me, the game being dark is a good thing. Look, the footage weights way less. Though I must say, the character models are quite well made. The original FNAF characters, the characters from the OG reboot, and even new characters for this remake. Oh, and here's a bit of trivia for you. Firstly, the render in the background was actually for an unused Bloodstained AI. And secondly, this isn't how the extras menu used to look all the time. It used to be, worse. Bro, that's bloody Arial font and character renders that are so blurry that it looks like you applied the same effect to them that you did to the fucking background. But the new recoded version also got an improved extras menu, thanks to Raidery specifically. Now let's tackle the gameplay. All three games have a pretty similar structure. There's a regular night, then the new night, and basically a hard mode. The normal night is the more similar experience to the original, just actually good this time. I would describe every character in the entire Remake series as similar to the original, but actually a threat. Starting with Springtrap, he's quite similar, but this time you can actually tell when he goes to the window because of the running noise and the knocking sounds. Wait a minute, last time I checked his lungs were about as fractured as my fragile masculinity. And when you don't hear breathing, using your flashlight scaring the shit out of Springtrap and making him fall out the window is quite satisfying, not gonna lie.
When jumping out of a plane, he forgot his parachute.
Mini Lockbear is exactly the same he was in the original. Now, Plushtrap is quite different, he just has a music box mechanic now. Now, the reason why Plushtrap is so different isn't actually due to some balancing issues or whatever. No, Malak himself thought that Plushtrap was broken in the original game. Yeah, that's how poorly the game conveyed its information. There's not much to note about him, he won't be that big of an issue, although in the previous version it took actual ages to wind up his music box. Also, that color choice is just... Dark Freddy is also quite different. He will sometimes appear when you enter the living room. Once you notice him, turn off the lights until you stop hearing his music box. This about covers the normal mode. Once you beat the 14-minute night, yes, you heard me. And here I was thinking Freddy's timer nights were long when they were already longer than the FNAF 1 nights. You can see the ending, which is clearly the reference to the ending of the original reboot, seeing how all the same characters are present. And unlock the new night, which is where you fight off against a single character, the new one. Yes, not only did the scrapped character get implemented into the series, but he also acts as a sort of a recurring boss character in the entire trilogy. The new knight in this game is quite simple. Once you hear the new one's music box, you need to find him in one of the rooms and shine your light at his middle head. Yeah, throughout the series he really doesn't seem to like light, and I don't blame him. He doesn't look threatening at all with the lights turned on. Jesus Christ, you polar bear looking ass. But your flashlight's battery, just like in every horror game, is shit. And this is where things get tricky. You only have barely enough power to last you through the night. Spend a bit too much and congratulations, you just wasted like 10 minutes of your time just to realize at 5 AM that you won't have enough flashlight power to make it to the end. But anyway, once you beat the night, you don't just unlock an ending screen, this time you get an entire cutscene. And unlock the Hell mode. Now, this is where things get spicy. The characters here get replaced with their Jacko versions, although they're basically the same, just more aggressive. Same thing with Dark Freddy getting replaced by Darkness Freddy. Arr! Having a hard mode by itself was already neat, but this time the new one gets thrown into the mix. The way he works is, so once you hear his music box, he appears in one of the locations marked on the map. You need to go where he is and stay there for about 5 to 6 seconds for him to go away. One thing to note is that the timer on him is retroactive, so to say. What I mean by that is, if you stay with him for about 4 to 5 seconds, then go away and go back, you'll only need to stay with him for about 1 to 2 seconds. Now, while this is all I can really say about the hard mode, one thing to keep in mind is that these remakes are way more challenging than the originals. So here are some tips for you. When you need to choose between checking Mini Logbear or checking Plushtrap, I'd suggest going with the former. While in the earlier versions it took ages to deal with both of them, here Mini Logbear fades out very quickly, so you'd spend significantly less time on him than on Plushtrap. Also, about the new one, don't stress out about him, it takes him a while to kill you. You could have Springtrap come in, close the blinds on him, wait it out, and then come back and you'd still have enough time to fend off the new one. But there is one thing about those two characters in particular that you should be worried about. When the new one appears at the window, you gotta be careful, since he does make quite a loud noise when he goes out, which could prevent you from hearing Springtrap's breathing. And that's about all I have for strategies. And a little fact about Hell mode, kinda like in Freddy's Timer's Insanity mode, once you reach 4 AM, the screen flashes and the music changes to Finale from Undertale. That's pretty epic. And once you actually beat Hell mode, you get an ending similar to that of the new night, but this time with the new one neutralized. The game game isn't completely over though. There's also a survival mode, also coded by Raidery, and once you reach 700 points on it, you unlock the credits and this cute little thank you screen. Although it's kind of funny how 700 seconds is actually less than this game's night's length, but whatever. Okay, first thing you may notice, this game has game jolt APIs, so that's neat.
Connection.
It was implemented by, you guessed it, Raidery, who also took part in fixing the recoded version's bugs. So firstly, the graphics, they're pretty good, just like with the first remake. The location you're in is a mix between FNAF 1 and FNAF 2, which is basically what the original was going for, but this time here it's fully remodeled. Some of the models are reused, and others are slight variations of pre-existing FNAF characters, but they're pretty much good enough. The gameplay structure here is pretty much the same, starting off with a normal night. Here you're facing off against the exact same enemies as in the original game. Springtrap will come to you from either the left or right sides, and you can't see him on the cameras. Although you can tell if he's coming from the left side if you hear this noise. But whichever side he comes from doesn't ultimately matter. Once you hear his muffled jumpscare sound, you gotta use the locker quickly or else he'll kill you. Toy Spring Bunny is basically the same, but only comes from the right side. Toy Fredbear only comes from the left side, and before he attacks you, he runs across here. Oh, holy shit, we got a new contestant! And when he does attack you, he does this. Whatever this is supposed to be. With the Fredbear is basically your Golden Freddy type enemy and will sometimes appear when you lower the camera or the locker. Now, in order to spice up the difficulty, the game introduces the sanity meter. The way it works is simple, it goes down or fills up depending on whether you're using your cameras or not respectively. It won't really be that big of an issue for you on the easier parts of the game, but it will once we get to the more difficult ones. And the sanity bar actually used to be in the first remake too, but it got removed in the recoded version. Alright, luckily the nights don't drag out as much as in the first game, they're only 9 minutes long here. And by now you know the drill, you beat the normal night, you get this paycheck, and you unlock the new night.
My friend is talking taller.
Fun fact, originally this night was more similar to how it was in the first remake. You would be in a dark room facing off against only the new one and mostly by using your flashlight. Although the night was ultimately pretty easy and also very short, like 2.5 minutes long to be exact. But now it's just a regular night with Springtrap, with a Fredbear, and of course the new one. The new one can attack you in 3 ways this time around. If you hear his laugh, you need to look around the office and then use your flashlight on him. If you hear the breaking in sound and see him in front of you, you need to use the locker. And his last way of killing you is by fading into the cameras. Once you stare at them for too long, he will kill you and crash the game too. And to be honest, I don't mind it that much. You thought the puppet from Freddy's Timer was overkill. Well, this guy's regular jumpscare is an actual fucking tactical nuke. Drion from the future here. In the recorded version, the new one's game-crashing jumpscare got replaced with the regular one. Wait, why do I have yellow eyes? And after beating it, you get to see this cutscene similar to that of the original, and I still wonder if these games have any lore. Oh hi! Nightmare is basically all 5 enemies with a ramped up difficulty. Now, while I do consider this remake to be the easiest out of the 3, I'm gonna still give you one tip, specifically concerning Springtrap. Keep in mind that it takes him quite a while to leave compared to others. So if someone else happens to enter with him and you're in a position where you can't see him in the doorway, you're better off waiting it out, since if you happen to open the locker while he's still there, it's basically an insta-kill. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at all the extra content. I do like the poses in the character list though. People's reaction to me being horny on menu, so basically always. Me explaining why I have a 60GB Rule 34 folder. People that don't give a shit about it. People that are interested. And my cock. Now, the music playing in the background of the extras menu may seem familiar. Either because you're really into classical music or because you've been traumatized. The survival mode is still there, although now you have to get 800 points. But those are rookie numbers. I played this game for an hour straight and I can go beyond that.
Purple? You fucking boy motherfucker! Who the fuck do you think you are? Come here and shit in my mailbox! Playing my goddamn video games! You're gonna learn about quality! You dumb fuck!
What you saw right there is a very rare Easter egg, specifically a character named Influenced. You may recall that he was referenced in Freddy's Timer. Well, back then I rounded him up to being just the developer's alternative account, but there's actually way more to that. He's more prominent in Malik's joke games, and represents his depression and the quite negative experiences he had to go through in the FNAF fandom. Oh, and as you may have noticed, he was indeed quite inspired by Gesture from Undertale. You can get a guaranteed encounter with him if you set everyone to 0 in the custom night, which yes, that's actually a thing now. It was implemented in the recoded version, and you can actually set everyone all the way up to 30. Although don't sweat it, if you beat Nightmare mode, you won't have many issues with the 530 mode. Initially after the Reboot remake, only the third game was planned to be remade, but then the developer decided, nah, fuck it, might as well remake the second one too. There are even hints at the third game's remake in the Nightmare mode's ending where Logbear appears. And in a rare startup screen that shows Nightmare Springtrap. And lastly, a rare loading screen with Nightmare Withered Fredbear that has a 1% chance to appear. I found it so you don't have to. And one more thing to note, the last remake wasn't actually all that bad in terms of coding, so it only received an update instead. Alright, so first thing we see is a reimagining of the minigame from the original third game. And even though it's more of a cutscene here since you can't control any of the characters, at least the sprites are way better here. And they were made by Jose, I'm just gonna say that from now on. He also made minigame sprites for Freddy's Timer, and drawings for Last Night at Bonnie. See, it's all connected. Well, anyway, the minigame ends and we're put straight into the game. The menus and the general interface is looking quite nice. See, you may have noticed every remake is going for a different style, and that's something that I find to be pretty cool. The models I find to be quite good. It's like all those cheesy Photoshop edits were taken and turned into something that would actually fit in a FNAF universe. And with the environment, once again, they take the utter mishmash that was the original location and turn it into something unique this time around. And as a bonus point to the presentation, when you start off the normal night, you get to see an entire animated cutscene by Groshux 2. I totally didn't pronounce that correctly. When it comes to talking about the character behavior here, there's not really that much to say. Everyone is practically the same, but they're still more dangerous this time, and not just because they got buffed, but oh look, the cameras aren't fucking useless. Yeah, Nightmare Withered Fredbear's music box got moved into the camera, and it also takes more than a split second to wind it up now. Nightmare Springtrap basically the same, although you can't repeat the music by spamming the flashlight anymore, which, fun fact, that was one of the first things that the developer was thinking of fixing when making this remake. Nightmare Spring Puppet just takes less time to kill you now, and since using the cameras is mandatory, this motherfucker is actually dangerous now. Log Bunny though is a bit different this time. Instead of turning off your flashlight, he just kills you if you stay with him for too long. Oh, and the chance for him to appear is no longer as low as the chance of me being in a relationship. And that is really low. I have a higher chance of not calling myself a virgin for one video. So, as you can see, the gameplay once again didn't change as much as one would expect, but there was still enough changes to actually make the gameplay challenging. But all of this is just the first shift, which is already called the Nightmare Shift. The minigame at the end of it is pretty much the same as the original, just again actually looks good. Alright, let's see if there's anything new. Well, okay, you do indeed unlock something new. You unlock the newest shift in which out of all three shifts, this one is anything but a true nightmare. The next shift will be a true nightmare. The previous one is literally called... Once again, the guy is afraid of lights, so when you see him in the hallway or in the office, just keep flashing him until he disappears. When you hear the static noise and the lights start to flicker, you need to find him in the cameras until he either moves to a different camera or completely leaves. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I would definitely consider this night to be the easiest out of all the new nights in the trilogy. This shift could have definitely been quite a bit harder if some of the other enemies were mixed in, like Nightmare with Fredbear's music box and the Log Bear. But speaking of annoying pricks, a certain somebody is going to make a comeback. Oh, and the music playing in the background of this fight is a remix of the Big Arms theme from Sonic 3. As a Sonic OC, I very much approve of this music choice. Alright, you beat the first two shifts. Congratulations. Now prepare for what I consider to be the final boss of this remake trilogy. This is where the game is done pulling its punches. Nothing in this entire remake trilogy took me as much time to beat as this specific shift did. Almost every enemy is a pain in the ass now. Nightmare Springtrap is extremely aggressive to the point where he can appear at your office mere seconds after leaving. Nightmare Spring Puppet, Log Bunny and Log Bear just appear more often, but Log Bear. Fucking Log Bear. This motherfucker has single-handedly ruined most if not all of my deadly mode runs. You pretty much have to pray that he doesn't show up too often when you need to escape from Nightmare Springtrap. Dark Freddy is now here, as teased in the previous ending. The way he works is, from time to time he will show up and try to reach the middle of the screen. Once he does, he starts to blur your vision, and if you stare directly at him for long enough, he will kill you. And you can look around when you use the camera, so yeah, even just winding up the music box with this guy becomes a pain. He does leave after a while, or if someone else happens to show up at the same time. Yup, the new one obviously joined the party too, although this time he only attacks you from the cameras. He also stops Springtrap from appearing while he's there, so in my eyes he is more of a savior, honestly. And it's finally over. Well, okay, not actually over. There's still survival mode, and yes, you need to get 1,000 points this time. But I'm telling you, that is a walk in the park compared to what we just went through. And this time, fully completing the game unlocks an Easter egg. This thing right here, I wonder what happens if I Excuse me, I have no idea what you're saying right now. Hell yeah! Sad is an understatement, to be honest. Wait, is it DRTF related? Oh, my subs are gonna slaughter me. Oh, by the way, why was my body not invited here? Wait, how would that be an issue for you? I like your funny words, Wingdings, man. Oh, by the way, do I even get anything out of this? Wait, but... Oh, wait, this isn't a deal, this is a kidnapping. Yup, influence is hidden in this game too. And that picture was made by a certain someone you might recognize. And the game has one more Easter egg related to him, specifically a rare screen which has a 1% chance to show up every time you start the game. Well, this has been one hell of a journey, but finally we're not just done covering the original one in the Springtrap series, but also the remakes. And this entire trilogy, in my opinion, is quite great. It took the original games in which the challenge, let's be honest, was quite laughable, and turned them into some of the hardest FNAF fan games you'll be able to find. Another thing I found to be really cool is the addition of the new one as the recurring antagonist. He definitely ended up being one of the more memorable parts of this trilogy. One thing that didn't really go anywhere was the plot. A lot of scenes in the remakes referenced the originals, but those didn't really have much of a story, not from what I could tell. But after all, the focus wasn't really on that, it was almost entirely on the gameplay. And that's something I really like about these series. Instead of trying to scare you, which most fan games would only end up doing for a short while, if at all, they're just there to give you a good challenge, and they sure do deliver. Drion from the future here. So remember how I mentioned that One Night at Springtrap was Headman's first FNAF fan game? Well, that developer's last FNAF fan game also got a remaster recently. It's a fairly standard but still well-made fan game. To put it simple, the game's kinda like FNAF 3 if it had more than one enemy that actually poses a threat. The audio lure is pretty much the main mechanic here. The annoying random errors are gone, thankfully, with the trade-off being that the lure itself is limited. And one of my favorite things about the game is how much extra content there is. Just as example, there's stuff like actually challenging minigames, and some secret nights, with one of them throwing you into FNAF 2 on maximum difficult. Oh my god, a black—
What on earth are you doing there?
Just synchronizing my death watch. Anyway, this night is kinda like life itself. You don't know why you're here and everything is against you. I could go a bit more in depth on this one. No, you cannot. And with that, we can pretty much wrap up this video.
You're not wrapping up anything. You know, I find it interesting how ever since you put on that outfit, you kinda excluded me from the script for this entire segment.
I haven't bugged you in over half an hour. Normally you'd be happy about that.
Yeah, but I still find it weird. And that Halloween outfit of yours, did you have any other ideas?
Well, at first I was thinking about a more traditional Halloween outfit, then the idea of the Angel Dust cosplay came to mind, but that kinda got taken, so I went with Alistair instead.
Were you thinking of maybe a Hell of a Boss outfit?
Oh, yeah, the Blitz one, for example.
Hold it. Whoever you may be, you have just gravely miscalculated. Drion did watch Has-Been Hotel and he does simp for Angel Dust quite a bit, that much you got right. But despite the concerning amount of loots of Luna he has on his PC, he's never watched Hell of a Boss. He doesn't even know any of the other characters' names.
Hey you, let me in, now!
Okay, I'll give you a point for perfectly imitating his incompetence. Oh, thanks.
Replaced me for that goof and abandoned me. This is what he's been trying to do this whole time. When I called him my daddy as a joke, I didn't think he'd take it so literally.
The cleaver is not a murderer symbol. It is the butcher symbol, the tool of his work, and when his mechanical companion is threatened, his weapon.
Wait, is this some obscure reference I don't get?
Yes.
You fucked up my face.
Is that a hug?
Yes. And now prepare to be Mr. Meeting Your Maker.
I saw a shitty joke about my name coming from miles away.
Oh, I will show you something that can be seen from miles away.
I don't have time for an entire stand-up accuracy of yours.
I really wish you stayed an intro filler character.
All I need to do is beat this game and review it?
Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative. That I love. I absolutely love.
That's just
a pile of stale memes.
I want it. It's everything. I mean,
They shape our will. They are the culture. They are everything we pass on.
8 games, 2 shoutouts. I know what you're asking, why the fuck is the video still going? Well, firstly, I do have a tendency to bite off more than I can suck. And secondly, I did help out a bit with the following game's development. Mainly because I am friends with the people that made this game, and honestly, I don't want their efforts to go in vain. Oh yeah, sorry about that, but our budget doesn't really allow this much. Exactly! This video is sponsored by Paint.net, the only software used to make this video that I could actually afford. Oh, by the way, just like the one at Springtrap's Remakes, this game got a massive update recently. And I'd say this one is probably bigger than all 3 of those combined, since it's pretty much overhauled the entire game. Like, this menu is nice and sweet. You wanna know what it used to be? I wonder if this how things have been fucking reused. Because if it is, then I'm afraid even someone like me wouldn't be into that. Alright, let's go. This is where we meet one of the first important characters in this universe. The Bandicam logo. The game has a level-by-level structure, and while all of the levels provide some sort of a point-and-click challenge, each level has completely different mechanics to make it stand out from the rest. Oh, and in the most recent update, the game got tip screens for every single level. Wait, that's my job! How the hell am I gonna pay taxes now? In this act, your objective is to find enough fuel for the car, and I seriously have to wonder what kind of a fucking car requires this much. My only plausible explanation is that we end up drinking most of it, which, judging by how much of a fever dream this game's about to become, I'd say the theory is pretty valid. There's also 3 enemies on this level. You take care of all 3 of them by clicking them. Ghost Boy Gaming 17 prevents you from moving, while Billy Mays and Joker, don't ask, I'm just about as confused as you are, can kill you if you don't take care of them fast enough. This act is pretty decent, albeit very easy, but at the same time this is the first act, so I don't think that's really a valid complaint. In the second act, we are in a car surviving for 100 seconds while defending against 3 different enemies. The first one is Crush. He wants to kill us for some reason. I guess I really did mispronounce his full nickname. You know, some people probably think I'm stupid enough to literally bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, no. I would bring an entire axe. The next enemy is Alfred. He's pretty much like Crush, but appears behind you and takes way less time to kill you. And the last one is Chris. He will slowly approach your mouse cursor and you just gotta make sure he doesn't reach it. The latter 2 characters come from the Five Nights at Afro-American series. There ain't really a whole lot to say about these. They look like they came from Game Jolt's new section, but at least the gameplay is actually pretty decent. With Ultimate Afro Night, despite not being an official Afro game, still being by far my favorite out of the bunch. Alright, it's a good thing I'm not the one driving the car, otherwise this would have ended pretty catastrophically.
Точно тут это было. Стою я вчера, в общем. Сигарету курю, никому не мешаю, и вдруг откуда не возьмись, такая бешеная машина.
Wait, you don't have a driving license either? Oh, fuck!
Ну, примерно вот так вот, ну та желтая была.
As we get into Act 3, we're about to be introduced to probably one of my favorite characters in this whole game.
Don't get it twisted!
This is a very simple level, you just walk forward until you make it to the end. And flash Mr. New X when you hear his theme song, which, yes, that's fucking DMX, and no, we're not in the early 2000s, although I wish I was. Specifically at the time I didn't even exist. Oh, and Chris is also here. He works pretty much the same way. When you see Blackjack, stop and don't move until he leaves. Don't step on the doggo, I'm watching you. This is definitely the most simple and easy act in the game, and yet the presence of this fucking guy just keeps this level entertaining for me somehow. Wait, this game has lore? Yes, it does have lore. Although if you're not following any of it, I don't blame you. I am suffering from internal bleeding and can't move. Can you please help me? This is where a whole bunch of other characters get introduced. We have Hulk, who never skipped leg day, but skipped arm day instead. Wait, that's pretty much everyone in this cutscene actually. Iron Tic Tac, Afro-American without the American, Slenderman, who's probably the only weirdly normal looking character here, Voidy, not to be confused with Sonic EXE or what do they call him, Executor? Whoa, when did you get so fucking sexy? And lastly, Max Headroom.
What I want to know is, why are the only funny lines on this show the ones behind me?
Oh, well, that's because I have too much room in my head to come up with something actually good. The games being referenced here include Five Nights at Hulk Dancing Apocalypse, which is basically just shoot and run. Slender Pages of which is more of the same actually, and the Max Files, which is kinda like Ray in the Wild, but with the difficulty ramped up to 111. Like, the footage you're seeing here isn't even my own, that's how much of a pussy I am to even touch this game. If there's at least one game here being referenced that I would definitely recommend you check out, it's Sonic's Normal Schoolhouse, by the Castration Man himself. It's a really cool and underrated RPG maker puzzle horror game thing. Well, I said it's horror, but it's more like half horror and half, yeah, this. It's got good humor, provides a decent challenge, albeit with a bit of trial and error, and even some hidden things to discover. Oh, and I also really like the main antagonist and his design. And this game took over a year to be made, so yeah, it definitely deserves more attention, be sure to check it out too. In Act 4 you need to break the door in the middle while defending against a whopping 6 characters. 5 of them require you to click them multiple times to take them down. When Find Me appears on the screen, find whatever the hell this is in one of the 3 areas and click it. That takes care of Slenderman. Now, my personal headcanon is that Slenderman is still stuck in that god-awful movie, and he's trying his best to break free out of it, which causes this weird-ass anomaly. I know you may say this is unrealistic, but a Slenderman movie came out in 2018 and nothing is too unrealistic. Now, enemies on the left side make sound cues, while the ones on the right don't, so don't forget to check on the right side especially. Oh, and there's also Voidy who you have to avoid, but you already have to move around very quickly, so he's rarely gonna be an issue.
Maybe you got rid of that old yee-ass haircut you got, you get some bitches on your dick.
So this act's pretty good, it's definitely where the game starts getting actually challenging. And while it may seem a bit overwhelming at first, with a bit of practice it actually becomes pretty fun to play. Alright, before we get into the final act, there's another cutscene with dialogue that I can't show. Yo, is it just me or is it kinda hot in here? Although you're pretty hot too.
Too hot, too hot!
Hey, what if I told you I actually know what's going on in here? The following act is such a complete mess that the tip screen broke character and said that before I did. Now, with the Afro characters you're supposed to use either the loud sounds or the lighter against them, as a reference to how they work in the Secret Night of Afro 2. But since unlike in that night here those tools aren't limited, I'd recommend just using both when any of them attack you. When Slenderman appears, use the flashlight against him, but don't use the flash too much, otherwise you'll be killed by Wingding's Voidy. And then with Crush and Iron Man, click the former once and click the latter a fuck ton of times. Your main enemy here is Mr. New Supreme Max, who keeps shooting you throughout the act and kills you if your HP drops to 0. Just keep clicking him to drain his health and spam the C key every now and then to regenerate your own health. With Mr. New Supreme Max defeated, the normal mode is finished, but the game is very much just beginning. Who would have thought this car had autopilot? Oh, hey there. I highly wouldn't recommend you walking around looking like Freddy Fazbear. Next thing you know, you'll end up in Ultra Custom Night. Yeah, scratch that. Now you'll end up there at least twice.
You son of a
Get the fuck outside, am I right? Yeah, even the T is black now. What are you watching?
It's what you hear in this. It's what you hear in this. It's what you hear in this.
Yeah, I'm listening. Is there anything I can do not to have to listen to fucking DMX? Let's see, there's like one song here.
Father of lies, come in disguise. Your come won't last.
Neither will my sanity.
The hard mode is where the game takes quite a turn, not just in terms of difficulty, but also because of its more serious storyline. Starting off with Act -1. This is basically just a harder Act 2, with the differences being that Afro is on cocaine, Rush is on super cocaine, but worry not, luckily the counter is also on cocaine, so it goes down twice as fast, technically only requiring you to survive for 150 counts. There's also Hedgehog. He will take away your axe and flashlight if you stay on the same side of the car for too long. I don't know if this guy is on any drugs though. Am I on drugs? Last time I checked, I at the very least sniffed glue. Oh, well, at least you're not on drugs, right? As Act -1 ends, we crash into Afro Grill, that being a reference to a game called Afro Grill The Experience, a game that is disturbingly serious. And from what I've played and heard, this game is ridiculously hard, like Ray in the Wild is nothing compared to it, so I don't know if I would recommend it. Just play Benji instead. This is where you go up against Crush, fused with Alfred somehow, and turned into Alfrosh. I'm gonna fucking die, aren't I? Well, not really, cause this fight isn't actually all that hard. If he appears on the left, use the alarm until he leaves. But make sure to clear out the memory, otherwise if it fills up, you'll be unable to use the alarm for the rest of the... Where the fuck does the alarm take up RAM?
Welcome to the new and improved...
Why the fuck does the alarm take up RAM? When you see him in the window, use the flashlight on him exactly 3 times. And when he starts saying Afro over and over again, go to the right and use the lighter on him. But do make sure not to use the lighter or the flashlight for too long. Phase 2 is pretty much the same thing, but he attacks way more frequently, and his attacks are now telegraphed by distinct voice lines. While phase 1 is a bit of a pushover, the second phase can definitely catch you a bit off guard, but I still consider Act 0 to be the easiest out of the 3 in hard mode, which yes, we're actually already at the finale. As the fight concludes, the Hat Rabbit loses his control of Crush, so our main cast escapes out of Afro Grill, while Crush tries to protect them from the main antagonist, finally revealing himself out of the shadows. Professor Influenced. Everyone is yet to know what happened to Crush, but at least the support has arrived in the form of Tundra, the Milk, and Bobby just kinda there, doesn't even have any dialogue. But in order to even out the odds a bit, Influence not only catches Ray and Spectre, but also pulled a bunch of characters from other games, and regained his influence over Crush, turning him into Inverted Freddy. Thank you, finally a name I can pronounce. And with all that out of the way, the post-final boss of the game, Act 666, can finally begin. In this act you have 4 characters to switch between, all doing their own thing. And while that may seem overwhelming at first, don't worry, this ain't Act 5, not even by a long shot. And unlike the latter, with its wacky balancing and repetitive button mashing gameplay, this act is way better designed. The first character is Tundra, the only one who can damage Influenced and his tentacles. Apparently that crowbar of hers is one of the most powerful weapons in this universe, and I'm not making that up, but that's actually canon. You need to prevent Influenced tentacles from reaching the top of the screen, thus draining your health, and also fight off Influenced himself when he appears. And doing the latter actually resets the tentacles, which is a nice design choice since it encourages you to fight Influenced head-on instead of running away from him. Next up is Jose, the only character capable of damaging Inverted Freddy. He's basically like Influenced but beefier, inescapable, and without the hentai. The Milk is the only character who can pick up the gas canisters. Yup, the car is out of gas again, but honestly with how much time I spent on the updated Act -1, I'm not really that surprised. And last but certainly not the least, in more than one way, I mean he's the thickest character here. Switch to him when you need to deal with Purple Ruby. He's basically just a thicker ghost boy from Act 1.
Yo, listen up, here's the story.
There's one more regular enemy here, that being Withered Fredbear. He's basically like Act 4 Voidy, just make sure not to spend too much time with him. And lastly, there's a somewhat rare enemy in this act. This abomination, Doriel from Helptale. A really messed up Undertale AU that actually inspired quite a bit of things both in this game and in Influenced himself. Why did Influenced pull this seemingly unrelated character in? Well, judging by the overabundance of Undertale references, I guess we can say that the professor is just a massive Undertale nerd.
Sans Undertale, the Come Reaper.
Finally, some good fucking music. You can't say that.
With the post-final boss defeated, we get the true ending. The ending actually references a bunch of different games that are related to this game in terms of lore. Firstly, we see Influenced speak to Darkette, a character from the game Balls 3 Forever, an absolute great value game from the legendary Don't Step on Freddy's Balls series. But jokes aside, it is quite a good game, and it also took about a year to be made and also didn't get the attention it deserved. Although keep in mind that it is one of the harder joke games, but if you're up for a challenge, I definitely recommend checking it out. And come on, name me another FNAF fan game that involves making and selling drugs, I'll wait. Next up is a teaser for a fan game called A Half Shift with the Castro. Okay, this one is honestly one of my personal favorites. Now, say whatever you want about how the game looks. If it wasn't for its simplistic art style, well, the game would have fucking imploded on itself. There's stuff like mini-games that are actual games, fuck tons of Easter eggs, a surprisingly deep lore, multiple playable characters, and a plethora of boss fights and even entire game modes, with the G mode pretty much being an entire fan game within a fan game. It took me ages to complete this game, and it just kept impressing me all the time. I highly recommend you check it out. And the final teaser is for a game called The Order That Falls, a supposed sequel to Reign the Wild. And while this game is quite good on its own, it does also have a major update planned in the future, so I'd recommend staying tuned for that. Now this is where the game would normally end, but now things get a bit complicated. Wait, but I'm not even done yet. Oh, basically that voidy guy told me to go fuck myself and learn windings on my own. Both, actually. Well, look, if I hadn't listened, he would have said the N-word on video. Oh, I like the sound of that.
It is I,
Mr. Former President?
Barack Obama.
Yeah, I know, I rigged the votes in favor of toying with their chick. Can you just talk this out?
Influenced, we gotta keep this PG-13.
I gotta think. What would the smarter me say right now?
You absolute fucking idiot!
Yeah, seems about right.
Are you actually going to do something? Or sit around and wait until you go from figurative to literal dead weight?
Wait, is that actually you?
Who else can it be? I am not your fucking imagination, I am right above you, you imbecile! But this is going to be as easy as me waltzing in and saving you. Pretty much every time you get in some sticky situation, I am the one who has to keep your sorry ass alive.
Sticky.
Shut! I leave you alone for 10 minutes and you get captured by some edgy side characters and can't even stand up for yourself.
But they could have killed me.
No, they wouldn't. There's a reason why they're after you in the first place. You know, I have my hands full. I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it out in one piece, let alone you. This time, you are on your own. Piss off already. That last one wasn't to you. Or actually, it was to both. Some fucking main protagonist you are.
What are you going to do with the other Drion after this? In what way is he inferior to this wimp? Good point, although I do wonder which one of the two is more gay.
What? I'm tired of being dead weight. I am the main character of this show. And I will always be the gayest Sonic OC. And that was my favorite hoodie, you putrid scum!
Call this one, it's a boy!
Excuse me, but I do not recall getting any quid for overtime. And I sure do ponder why that is so. That, my dear associate, is nothing to be too perplexed about. I am British, after all.
I guess I'll have to take over from here. This is where the game was supposed to end. But alas, there is one more chapter, a final one for real this time, I promise. And this one is a hassle and a half to just unlock. The way you get into it is inspired by Five Nights at Wario's cross-game quest, where you find secrets in certain games to unlock things in other games, but here it's much less complicated, luckily. And it only involves two games, the aforementioned A Half Ship with the Castro, and a Five Nights at Wario's fan game, The Abandoned Factory. Now, I've already jerked off the former fan game more than enough, so now it's time to jerk this one off for good measure. It is one of those fan games that try to go for a more classic feel, and it does a pretty good job at it. The gameplay isn't necessarily too innovative compared to the official later Five Nights at Wario's games, but it is still very well designed and fun. And on top of that, the game recreates the official Wario game's eerie atmosphere quite well. Heck, it even recently got a Five Nights at Wario's 3 mode, where you go from room to room each night. This is what you all Wario enthusiasts like, right? Anyway, I highly recommend this game to anyone who enjoyed the Five Nights at Wario's games. It even got me somewhat interested in the series, so you might see a video about it someday? You know, I probably shouldn't be making promises. Last time I did so, I kinda boxed myself into a corner.
How about you fuck yourself into a corner?
After this video is done, I will.
I swear to God, you two really are the same person.
No, we're not. Mine still has legs.
You know, I used to be a bit iffy about you murdering me in your timeline, but at the very least that other me no longer has to put up with your utter bollocks.
Getting back to the Cross Games quest, what you need to do with this game in particular is fully beat it, including its max mode. That unlocks a secret night that you can get on the night select list. It plays very much like Five Nights at Wario's 4. By using your remote you can either switch channels or mute a certain channel, and you need to do the latter with the channels that have this icon pop up on them. And just like with Five Nights at Wario's 4, you have a help button in the bar above the game's frame that you use to either fix the remote or to stop Demon Wario when you see him in channels 5 or 6. Once you beat the night, you get a teaser for Rain in the Wild, implying that the games are connected. This about covers the Abandoned Factory. Now let's get back into the castration location. This queen you need to beat is the boss of the aforementioned Jing mode that you unlock as you progress through the game.
I like it, could you?
And yes, it's Undertale. Okay, how do I explain this one? So basically, Influence gets captured and eaten by one of this game's antagonists, Miss Darkness, the small one. Although that does come with its side effects. Firstly, she becomes a Webbit, which is an undeniably good part, but she also becomes an Undertale nerd. That one is a bit questionable. With all those things out of the way, we can finally get into the Ultimate Nightmare difficulty, or the Lost Chapter. The events here actually take place after the Jing mode boss fight, and no way in hell am I going through the effort of explaining everything here. Here's what you need to know. Miss Doomsday gets defeated by that meme, we get saved by this Molnar guy who exists, and Influence is wearing pajamas. But while in the original game the main character, Laura, would just same, here she decides to enter Influenced house. Hopefully she doesn't step into my room, I haven't even organized it.
You never do.
And never will. The first act of this chapter is called Hardcore Hallway. Just like with Act 3, you need to proceed forward until you reach the end. And it's got not 4, not 5, and not even 6, but 7 enemies.
Oh, I was just missing a 7th left arm. Thanks. Firstly, there's Miss Darkness 36th. Yeah, thanks. Flash her when she appears in front of you until she disappears. Then Miss Darkness 35th. Oh, so I just go down from here? Yes. She kills you if you hold your mouse cursor over her for too long. But don't try to cheese the game by putting your mouse cursor outside the game window, otherwise you'll be killed by Miss Darkness the 37th.
That one was out of order, now you can proceed.
Next up is Miss Darkness the 34th, and no, there is no porn of her. Not that I would mind actually. She gets more aggressive as you move forward, so make sure to stop every once in a while to calm her down. And when Miss Darkness the 33rd appears in front of you, you gotta not use your flashlight, although you can still walk forward, and that is important to keep in mind, otherwise you'll be stuck here for a while. Then there's Miss Chara. I can read that, thank you very much.
Well, I was uncertain.
Whatever. When you hear the Fallen Child from Undertale play, just type Chara on your keyboard before she kills you. Oh, and because we needed at least one enemy that sticks out like a sore thumb and isn't really thematically fitting, yeah, Demon Wario is here. Go away. Phase 2 is pretty much the same, but everyone is a bit more aggressive, and Miss Darknesses are replaced with Miss Darkness 32nd.
That's 38.
Fuck! Oh, and a little fact, the music playing in this phase is actually an edited version of New Super Mario Bros. Wii final boss. You know, one of those bosses that have a really kick-ass phase 1 music, but because that phase 1 lasts for like half a second, the music gets underappreciated. Fuck! Jokes aside though, overall this is definitely one of the best designed levels in the game, which thanks to its variety of ways the enemies can kill you, not only doesn't get boring, but even keeps you on your toes. Once you reach the end of the hallway, you get into the Dream Room. This act is very simple and acts more like an interlude. Firstly, there's Miss Darkness the 30... Who cares? Find and click the fuck off button randomly positioned in the room. Then there's Origins Wario, who works pretty much the same way, but he's easier to spot since he makes a sound cue and his button is bigger. Oh, and Demon Wario is here, and he's even more aggressive this time because he's a fucking prick. For real though, he can fuck right off. Well, okay, at least this act doesn't drag itself out for a while. You only need to survive for a single minute. And once you do, you get into the other room of the house.
Wait, you told me you had no female counterparts.
Oh, well, have you heard of the strategic maneuver called lying? Anyway, in the room that we're actually supposed to be in, just as we're about to get stabbed by Miss Darkness, Influenced comes back home. Okay, I know you have some bullshit-ass powers, but since when did you learn photosynthesis? I hate it when he does that. Just gotta relaunch the game, right? Well, nope. This right here is the proper endgame. Influenced exacts his revenge on the Miss Darknesses by capturing them and abusing their powers. He creates this dimension called Help Castro by combining Help Tail and Under Castro. That's not even an actual AU, that is a fucking gag. Influenced, could you play some other video? Oh wait, no, we would have had even more chapters to deal with. And now we're going full Undertale mode against the post-final, actually final boss, Delta Influenced. This boss fight plays out very similarly to that of Miss Doomsday, but since this one is actually tough, and in a game that I'm actually reviewing, I will go over it. Just like with the Omega Flowey boss fight, you have the main bullet hell sections separated by the in-between parts. Although while the latter in the original Omega Flowey boss fight were still technically bullet hell, here they are replaced by full-on FNAF fangame style sections, and this design choice adds quite a bit more variety to the fight. So, firstly, the bullet hell sections, they're pretty self-explanatory, although instead of using the arrow keys to avoid things, you use your mouse cursor, which you might think would make the fight easier. Well, okay, it does, but it's still not a walk in the park either. Definitely harder than this. The abandoned factory parts, though, are a bit tougher. You get thrown into it 6 times, 1 hour each. At first, only Virus Influenced is active. He simply imitates the behavior of the abandoned factory's characters. He can either imitate Mario's behavior and appear on one of the sides of your office, in which case you need to look away, or imitate Luigi's behavior, where he takes the route behind you and runs to the door, or lastly imitate Wario's behavior, where he comes from the front and then enters your office, in which case you need to use the correct alarm on him. Oh, and you can also tell whenever he makes a move because he just trips on like 3 things at once.
I'm a sneaky salamander, dude. What you gonna do? I'm fucking sneaky!
He was modeled and animated by Crush. For real, check him out, he makes some really cool animations about that one FNAF game series I've never played. Starting from 2 AM, Help Darkness shows up. she's basically just a music box that moves around the cameras. And while you already have a sort of a music box here that being charging up the fire alarm, since every hour here is only a minute long, focusing on it isn't exactly necessary. And then starting from 4 AM there's Demon Wario again. You pretty much do the same thing as before, but firstly you need to find him on one of the cameras, which almost always happens to be the last one I look at, and I tell him to shove this naked Wario remote up his ass. Yeah, 5 AM is pretty much like the hardest part of this entire fight, since you have to balance out quickly finding Demon Wario and help Darkness with making sure Influence doesn't sneak up on you. Heck, even Influence himself gets impressed once you do it. Oh boy, he's gonna kill us. I wonder if anything happens while he finishes that sentence. Oh look, plot convenience. Oh boy, so here Laura gets help from Obstra, the spirit of the person that died inside the Jing suit. Rainer, or basically her father, and well, okay, she's just kinda there. My condolences, I guess. Okay, excuse me, what the fuck are you doing here?
Let us begin.
Okay, are we just gonna ignore that? Ignore what? There was a woman! Anyway, the finale plays out pretty much just like an Undertale. You click the save button to fill up this bar, and there's bandages popping up every once in a while to heal you up. Overall, it's a little tougher than the regular bullet hell sections, but still not really that hard. Once you separate Miss Darkness from him, he doesn't actually go down. Oh well, P, you kinda got me trapped in here. Are you gonna be a competent villain and finish me off? Nope. You fucking idiot. I'm going to call a dead meme. Well, okay, what actually happens is the Comet Observatory crashes into him, and when me and Influence share the same question to her, that being why and how the fuck, she does what any other sensible person would do while losing in an argument. She just straight up gaslights Influenced, and I don't mean in a beauty community T-channel type of thing. No, she literally sets the fucker on fire. Although I wouldn't be surprised if the beauty community resorted to that at some point too. Oh, and now Molnar is here? How do you even know him? How do you know Influenced? Where the fuck is Influenced? Hey, does anybody wanna read the TRTF novel with me? I don't promise that it'll be less convoluted than what we just went through, but...
I don't know what the fuck just happened, but I don't really care. I'ma get the fuck up out of here. This shit, I'm out.
Oh, well, at least you're still here. You know, I remember when I used to make videos that were like... less than 10 minutes long, and I didn't have to explain some fucking crossovers and overcomplicated lore.
For fuck's sake!
Okay, let's see for how long I can explain your guys' lore without having a mental breakdown in the process. Would you look at that, my blood is already boiling. So all of a sudden, Drakov, Laura's uncle, appears, and basically starts retelling his entire life, completely omitting the part where he explains why and how the fuck he's here in the first place. Instead we get showered with more exposition, which I would elaborate on if I wasn't reviewing an entirely separate game and not the one this motherfucker came from. Listen here, you slightly more intelligent SCP-173. You are a character that's supposed to be kept secret until a half-shift with a caster is beaten 100%. And yet unlocking this part only requires beating that game's Jing mode. You and your little porcupine punk shouldn't even be here in the first place. Finally, no more mysterious ass characters I have to explain. Eat it, dick. Oh look, finally an excuse for me to put this game in the video.
Did you throw a temper tantrum again?
For fuck's sake, every time something gets blown up, you always jump to me having a temper tantrum!
Well, to be honest, every time you do throw a temper tantrum, something gets blown up. In fact, the very reason why this house stayed intact for as long as it did is because I kept teleporting you into different timelines every time you had a mood swing.
Oh, well, my blood pressure is pretty fucking high right now, then why isn't anything getting blown up yet, huh, smartass?
Well, because there is nothing here left to annihilate. Oh, are we doing this again?
Yes, we are doing this again. Can you, like, convince him so that his new house doesn't have hallways that take 10 fucking minutes to go through?
What's the point? You spend the majority of your time in your room and barely leave it anyway.
Gee, I wonder why! Tuesday in it, you motherfucker! What is the meaning of this? Why am I being avoided all of a sudden? I had a fucking cleaver launched into my head, and don't ask how that didn't kill me. And yet I am being refused help from both you and Influence. So what the fuck is going on in here? I know you could pull me out of here any moment, and I know you're listening. I can hear the tea go down your rusty ass. Wherever the fuck it goes. So stop ignoring me. Answer me now.
At long last, peace and absolute tranquility. Bloody hell.
Everyone named Alex, David, Container, the Holy Wars, Razorblade Masturbator.
Honey, I'm home. And that's where you're wrong. I am the daddy here. Now where's my boy? Is he a fucking girl again? Oh god, I was hoping people only go through this phase once.
Of course, me from this timeline would be easy enough to manipulate, and yet it feels like he's even edgier than me already?
Don't fucking at me.
Oh, hey. Did you know that the inverted designs were actually inspired by inverted Yoshi from Five Nights at Yoshi's?
And this piece of trivia is just about as useless as all of you inverted shitheads combined. Actually, we have no idea.
Sonic OC with human hair.
Ow, that hurt.
やめてください。
Merry Christmas. Not as late as for Halloween. Anyway, DBZ reference. Ah, you fucking dumbass. No one's going to get the references. Yo. That doesn't actually matter since my plan was doing the opposite. Hey. Shoutouts to Simple Flips. Anyway, I can't beat the shit out of you without getting closer. I'm going to beat you to a pulp before you get to ask, was that a motherfucking JoJo reference? Just saying, only one of us can get 4th-degree burns. An edgy fuck like you would never stand a chance against a dead character. Well, no shit, it was pretty obvious.
Delaying the inevitable, whatever, you know?
I give you exactly 2 more generic villain lines until I off you for good. Alright, you have 1 more line left. Hey, you're supposed to wait until he finishes his generic villain dialogue.
Your guest spot on the show gay Sonic OC reviews FNAF endgames and keeps reminding you every second about how gay he is. Oh yes, has expired.
Stop, Drion? Bitch, please, no matter the timeline, you're a power bottom at best.
Is he doing a magical anime girl transformation?
Also, the fact that so far this video has been basically a low-budget Dragon Ball episode never bothered you, eh?
Well, at least it's not as bad as the Resurrection F anime. Okay, that's not even gay, that's just tryhard.
You went from someone who looks like him to someone who desperately tries to look like him.
You're missing the point. It is you, Lord, that are knuckles of me!
Step aside, I'll kick his ass.
I'll kick his ass.
Wait, since when have you been kicking ass?
You didn't think I was gonna just let you go, did you?
Well, I was hoping you'd go easier on yourself.
That is not a thing either of us actually really do all that much. But anyway, aren't you tired of having all these side characters drag your videos out?
I don't know.
How long is the next video gonna be? 2 hours? 3 hours maybe. Unlike you, I have a strong enough will to cut out all the fluff, both figuratively and literally. But first I gotta take care of the inferior, weak-minded version of me that prefers Has-Been Hotel the hell of a boss. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Hey! Angel Dust is fucking hot!
I can't exactly argue with that one.
What was this all about again?
Alright, I'm going to cement myself as the only gay Sonic OC in this timeline. And once I do, I will revert the things to the way they were before, with simpler reviews and none of this overcomplicated bollocks.
I don't know, man, all of this edgy talk and seriousness, I think I'm still the gayest Sonic OC around here. You're comparing yourself to me? You're not even gay enough to be my fake.
Oh, so that's how it is, huh? Well, two can't play this game. Come on, think. Well, of course, I was wearing a Has-Been Hotel outfit earlier. Do you know how fucking gay that shit is? And now for the fun part, where I kill myself!
Get out of the way, dumbass!
Being the main protagonist does come with its perks, you know. One of them being that, well, I'm literally writing this show, like, look, there's a cute cat right there. Why? Because I said so. And another one being plot armor that even a gag character like yourself cannot penetrate.
There I was thinking I would finally have legs for more than one video. I haven't felt this defeated ever since the website figured out I was a robot. How did I even do that?
Hey, you still there, right? I don't even know what you said, but you probably called me an idiot there somewhere.
These buffoons couldn't even end the review properly before causing all this ruckus. I guess I shall wrap this up. Where did that spastic stop at again? Oh, credits. Welp, my work here is done. Rest in rubbish, you twat. Because the main campaign and the Lost Chapter are almost two entirely separate games, there's two extra menus here, albeit the former one is simply a glorified character list. Although there is also a shoutouts page, or as I like to call it, a 5 Nights at Wario's and some other games are there too, I guess, page. Shrek's Pizza Remastered is one of the better ones here, despite the phone guy being about as straight as an onion ring.
Dude, holy shit!
The Lost Chapter, on the other hand, has fancier level select and extra menus. About as fancy as I am, and that is my actual canon name, and I absolutely fucking despise it. Makes me jealous of my other timeline counterpart, since he never had a canon name. This extras menu is still mostly a character list, but there is a jump scare section included at least. As something a bit more unique, well, unique in quotation marks. This game also has a trophies room. Welcome to the trophies room, where you can pretend like you've accomplished something in your miserable life. Look, you're the only person I've met so far that I can actually tolerate. You earn trophies by reaching milestones in either the main campaign or the cross games quest, with the former being commented on by me and the latter by Drion McDraw. And if I hear you say that I look like Richard McCroy, I will contort your body to the point that you will be compared to the virus characters. How would that feel? Sus brava, but that is your canon name, innit? You may wonder what this bear trophy here is for. Oh, well, that's because this incompetent prick forgot to elaborate on it. When you play Act 666 for the first time, you may notice the bear parts scattered around it. Collecting them all unlocks this trophy, and, well, that is it. It has got about as much point as those relaxation pills McJoy bought a while back. Didn't make him any less aggressive, but it did give him diarrhea for about 3 hours straight. Oh, and by the way, through the trophies room you can unlock a secret level that is totally necessary because this game definitely didn't have enough content by now. The level in question is called Ray in the Forest, and it is pretty simple all things considered. You walk around, find and pick up the logs, set them on fire on the fireplace, and use them against this thing, which totally has plot relevance. Well, okay, I lied, it does not. It was meant as a sort of a Christmas-themed thing, since this update was initially supposed to release on Christmas, just like this video was supposed to release on Halloween. XD. The game that this level references has been hidden for quite a while now, which makes the following dialogue scene even more relevant. Oh, it appears you have found and beaten the Array in the Forest mode. Did you know that this mode is actually a reference to a game called Walk in the Forest? Let's not talk about that here. Before I finally conclude this review here, have a jump scares compilation. I heard people like these. In the meantime, I'll get me some crackers.
You know, I'm gonna save you.
Ray in the Wild is not a game I would necessarily classify as a FNAF endgame, it's more like a point-and-click gauntlet. With almost every level playing differently, there's not just a whole lot of content to go through, but a lot of varied content. But by being such a mishmash of ideas, obviously not all of them are executed as well as others, which is especially evident in the earlier parts. And there is quite a flaw with this game, there's a stark difference between the first and second halves in terms of quality, and the former can definitely deter a lot of players from experiencing the latter. And of course, the cross-games quest, while not necessarily a new idea, is still something that up until this point has only been executed well, or at all, only once. And this particular quest takes it a step beyond by spanning across entirely separate games instead of games from the same series. If you push through the earlier inferior parts and look past the story going from almost non-existent to overly complicated, and the fact that a lot of characters here, including the main antagonist, are basically self-inserts, what you get is quite a well-made point-and-click game with a heck ton of replay value. And as a game inspired by all the FNAF joke games such as Five Nights at Pingas, it does a pretty good job at recreating their magic, and even going up and beyond simply being a playable shitpost. And that's all I have to say. This review is over. In fact, this entire review series is now. With your beloved gay Sonic OC out of the picture, there is nothing left to do in this timeline, and I shall bid my farewell. What? Well, this is quite peculiar. Hey, you, get it!
Well, but now that I am the only Drion here left,
did everyone just forget about me?
I can finally get on with the whatever I had planned. Yeah, seems about right. What the? Yet another jabroni of influence, huh? My videos aren't public property, you know. Influenced has already far overstayed his welcome. It's about time he got the boot. No one is going to care about you, or your associates, or influenced for that matter. I am only doing what's best. But I do give you a couple more minutes. So, would you be so kind as to recite your little troll bust article, you discount Sonic EXE? What just happened? Where am I? Where did everything go? Of course it's you. What kind of a trick are you pulling on me this time?
Huh.